What's up, everybody? I hope you guys are having a great Monday. It is Ashen Amdari here, and I am beyond excited to be doing this, the first Grind My Gears podcast. It's been in the works for a while, and finally it's here. So before I start, I want to do some shameless self-promotion. Go over to www.ashenamdarimma.com and grab yourself one of these awesome nobody cares work harder caps, sweatshirts, t-shirts, all there. Get it before it's gone. So last year I started to do these when the pandemic started. I started to do these things on my Instagram, these little clippets after I went for a run, things that pissed me off, and the response from it was so good. People were always asking me when I saw them when I'm going to do the next one, giving me recommendations of the ones to do after that. So I decided I was going to turn this thing into a podcast, and I'm finally able to get it done and get it going, and I'm excited to keep up with it. And over the next we're gonna have some really good guests lined up. I have some people lined up, some good experts in certain fields, and I'm just excited about doing this. It's a great opportunity for me to speak to people and just to have some conversations. So I'm excited to finally get this going. And yeah, so before we get into what I was going to talk about today, last night we had a really great UFC event in Houston, and I just want to go back and to the last two events that the UFC held. They were phenomenal for two reasons why they were phenomenal. One reason why it was phenomenal is because, boy oh boy, when they did that show in Florida, in Jacksonville a few weeks ago, was it ever? I sat on the couch here with my wife, and as we were watching that pay-per-view, and the crowd noise was absolutely, you just felt the energy. It's been a while since we have felt that kind of energy watching anything, like the last the last year, basically. Almost, we're going into the second year of this shit here, at least in Canada. You haven't been able to watch a sporting event and just enjoy it. It was always silent. There was always some political innuendo behind whatever sport it was going on. There was always something to remind you of all the crap that is going on in the world, and the last two UFC events were phenomenal. If you're not a fan of fighting, and you tuned into one of those two events, you slightly became a fan, because one of the things about mixed martial arts and fighting, boxing in general, boxing too, is none of that crap matters. All that stuff that's going on in the world right now, I'm not going to bring that up because that's not what we're talking about today. But none of that matters when it comes to fighting. Fighters get to make their little statements once in a while, before or after, in a pre-fight press conference, that kind of thing. But it doesn't consume the show. Whereas in other sports it does. And the UFC has knocked it out of the park. Sold out arenas. I mean, they're still doing the socially distant thing, which is probably the smart thing to do. I think in Florida, it was packed to the tits. Floridians give zero fucks about anything. At least it looked like last night in Texas. In Houston, they had some sort of distancing. It wasn't completely packed to the tits there. Oh, there's my alarm. Sorry, this is when I normally get up early. So, yeah, it was a fantastic event. So I just wanted to go over for those of you who didn't get to tune in, let's talk about sorry, I'm just turning off the alarms here. The event. So 3 fights really stood out for me. One of the ones being on the prelims with Jacare Souza, who I uh, love a lot. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. Uh, I'm not sure if he challenged for a title. I think he might have challenged for a title previously, but man, was that a hard fight to watch? I actually bet for him, and uh, man, he got his arm broke like really bad. He's 41, and he's getting his arm broke by. I wouldn't say no. I don't want to take away any credit from his opponent, but up and comers. So it was hard to watch as a fan of jiu-jitsu and as a fan of Jacare. Hard to watch that fight. It just looks like he's missing a bit of a step. It just looks like he's not the same Jacare that we saw maybe 2-3 years ago when he was just crushing people. So in my opinion, I don't like to tell guys what to do in terms of their career, but it seems like he's missing a step now. So it's something he's got to take a look at. And then, speaking of missing a step, we go to the co-main event of the evening was Tony Ferguson and Beneil Dariush. So for the casual fan tuning into that fight, Beneil Dariush is not a household name. So you automatically think, well, Tony has got this. Well, Tony didn't have shit. Tony once again looked flat. He didn't look like himself that we saw when he had that 11 fight win streak. It just wasn't there. So he's 3 losses now, and 3 losses to 3 really elite guys. Dariush bringing up his stock definitely last night, getting in the title contention picture. So I don't know what the next step is for him with 3 losses. The UFC won't cut him unless there's some sort of dispute going on with them. But I don't think they cut him. It's a totally different situation from like the Teron Woodley situation. But if they do cut him, I could see him going to ONE FC and tearing shit up and really getting some money out there. But I don't know what the next step is for Tony. I think he's got to take some fights against some lower ranked people. 15, 16, 16th ranked, and he's got to knock it out of park. If he does have those fights again, if there isn't any cutting of Tony, it's got to be, he's got to take on a 15th ranked guy and beat the shit out of them and work his way back up. Unfortunately, we haven't got to see Tony fight for the title, which he should have. Should have multiple times. And it's quite a shame how that turned out. For those who don't know, they tried to get him and Khabib to fight like 6 times. All 6 times the fight fell through. So there's not much you can say about it, but he's just got to build his way back up. And the main event, wow, what a main event. Now, I'm first to say I am a fanboy of Michael Chandler. I've been following that guy's career for a long time. He is a freak athlete. And when he fought Dan Hooker to get into the UFC and he lit him up, it was great, and won some money that night. Put some money on that fight too. But he performed well, despite losing to Charles Oliveira, who did an incredible job last night. Showed definitely, you put in the work, you can be a champion. That guy has, 20, 30 fights, or 20, 30 fights, maybe. I forgot what his record is, but he's got like 11 years in the UFC, a long time. He's been in there since he was like 21. So for him to finally get that title shot and to win last night was really big. So hats off to Oliveira. I can see him holding on to that title for a long time, at least a year or two, and with a couple of defenses, because he is fighting fantastic. He did get tagged quite a bit last night, in that first round, but he did fantastic. So shout out to Charles Oliveira. Definitely turned me into a fan before this fight. I wasn't paying too much attention to him, and he kind of flew up back under the radar and getting to this title position. So great job for him. But who's next in the lightweight division? Uh, well, I say Poirier. I think once Dustin gets through the fight with Conor, if he wins, uh, it's got to be Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. I don't know if I put Conor in that fight for the title. I don't think he deserves it. I really do want to see a trilogy fight with Nate Diaz, which I think that should happen. That's the money fight. So, yeah, that's my little breakdown of that pay-per-view last night. And the one biggest takeaway I take away from it is, man, it is great to have some states in the U.S. and around the world having fans back in. Sorry, clear my throat. No vid here. It was great to see that because, like, for those of you who live in Canada, who are probably most of my going to listen to this, we don't have any hopes of having a live event. So it was just electric. So if you can tune into the UFC events that have the live shows with the fans in the crowd, which I think all of them do now. I don't think they're going to any states or anywhere without live events. You got to tune in. It will, even if you're not a fan of fighting, it will change your attitude towards everything that's going on and give you some sense of hope that there are not the world's not run by politicians, and we do have some sense of normalcy, and sport will do that, and it always does that. So, moving on from that, so today what I want to talk about, what really grinds my gears in my first episode, so I'm going to focus something on fitness, something that I'm quite familiar with. My company does fitness. I'm a fitness company. But it's something that really grinds my gears is high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. So I'm sure some of you have been walking around and you go to one of those, let's say those gyms, what is it, Orange Theory, F45. There's a whole bunch of them. And gyms in general, they advertise HIIT training, high-intensity interval training classes. That is not a thing. So I'm going to address that and break that down into a few parts. So I wanted to first, let's go over what is high-intensity interval training. And so it's a form of training, cardiovascular exercise with short bursts of intense anaerobic exercise with very little recovery periods until exhaustion. That is like the definition of what it is. Now, if you take that definition and that science that's behind what high-intensity interval training is and you apply it to what these fitness chains and gyms and stuff are doing, that is not high-intensity interval training. And it really grinds my gears, especially as someone in the business. So you see it all the time. Instagram is a big culprit. You'll see a lot of these sponsored ads and sponsored posts, and they'll be like 40-minute HIIT workout, and it's some girl or some dude doing push-ups or like shoulder presses and combining all of these exercises that do not qualify under this banner, under this type of training. So I want to expand on how, as a professional fighter myself, how we view high-intensity interval training and how it's actually used. So a typical high-intensity interval training session, when we do it, it doesn't last 40, 50, 60 minutes. It doesn't last that long. When we plan to do high-intensity interval training, it's either as a 30-minute training session, or we add it on to the end of our workouts after our lifts or our main set of exercises. So how do you structure your high intensity interval training, and how do we do that? So for example, in an hour long session, if I'm lifting weights, so I will do my sets of squats, do my sets of the compound exercises, the weightlifting. So now we're about 30 minutes in, 40 minutes in. We got 20 minutes left in our workout. We like to limit it to about an hour because performance starts diminishing around 45 minutes. What high intensity interval training is you're picking one kind of modality, one simple or two simple or three simple exercises. When I say simple, I mean mindless exercise. So things like the airtime bike, things like a rower, things like just a regular exercise bike, a treadmill, sprinting, one of those anaerobic activities. Now, it could include weights, but it would have to be fast dynamic movements. Arm curls, for example, bicep curls, is not a exercise that you would classify as a high intensity interval exercise. So if you see someone doing arm curls with putting HIIT on their friggin' workout, that's bullshit. They're lying to you. Don't follow them. Don't do that. That's not HIIT. So you would pick one of those kind of exercises and basically you set a timer, so work to rest ratio. When you're starting out, you want to go even. So an even work to rest ratio would be 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. If you're completely out of shape, you do 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off, so you get a little bit more recovery. Because the idea is, in those 20 seconds, you are going as hard as humanly possible. So if you're on the treadmill, you're sprinting as fast as you can. If you're on an airtime bike, you're going as fast as you can. You're on the rower, you're rowing as fast as you can. You're doing something like cleans, you're doing them as many as possible in that time. Maxing out. This is not something that you do and you have a breath after. So there's the misconception, is that you're going to do high intensity interval training for 40 minutes? No way. You're supposed to be maxing out your energy, your anaerobic system in those 20 seconds. So it's not sustainable for long periods of time. Meaning, if you're actually doing high intensity interval training, you're not sitting there doing it for anything more than 20 minutes, basically. So you're going to do 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. You're going to try and do that for, so you're setting your goal for 12 sets. That when you're done those 12 sets, you shouldn't be able to do anything else. Your body should want to just fall on the floor and basically be like one of those CrossFitters and fall on the floor and pretend like you're dying in the gym like they do with CrossFit. That's the whole theory and concept behind high intensity interval training. It's not this 1-2 exercise thing, 3 doing sit-ups. No, these are high demand, mindless exercises. You are maxing out your cardiovascular system, recovering, going back to it, recovering, going back to it, recovering, going back to it until your body says no or you meet your set range. That is high intensity interval training. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for long periods of time. So what these gyms and these chains do is they rely a little bit on ignorance that people don't know. It sounds cool, HIIT training. I do high intensity interval training at my gym. Chances are you're not really doing it, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. It's just chances are you're not doing it, because this is the way it's done. You have to pick certain exercises, put on an interval timer, and slowly improve interval workout after interval workout after interval workout. That's how these things work. It's not the other way around. You're not doing high intensity interval training for a whole training session. If you are, you're just doing circuits. You're just doing cardiovascular work. It's not high intensity. So it really grinds my gears, and people are paying good money to certain gyms and certain fitness outlets. Good money for that kind of training, and it's not what you're receiving. So how I like to structure when I include high intensity interval training in my programming and how I do it with client Sebastian Imdari PT is I like to add it at the end of our 60-minute session. So we would do our fundamental lifts, whatever lifts we're doing for that day, and around the 40-minute mark, 45-minute mark, 15 minutes left, we take 10 minutes. I like 10 minutes is ideal for me, because I think in 10 minutes, if you can't max your body out in the 10 minutes, then you have a little bit of fitness issues. So we take 10 minutes and put in some intervals. So for more advanced, higher level, higher fitness level clients or athletes, you bump that number up to about 15 to 20. But for the average person, 10 minutes is all you need for high intensity interval training. So let's talk about something very simple. Let's take something as simple as the exercise of mountain climbers. So for those of you who don't know, you're in a push-up position and you're just moving your legs up and down like you're running on the floor. Now, something as simple as mountain climbers. For most people, just doing it for 20 seconds, most people who are not in phenomenal shape, kind of sucks. But for people who are in decent shape, doing mountain climbers for 20 seconds, not so bad. Now, you do mountain climbers from minute on, 20 seconds off, then it becomes difficult. You shouldn't be, if you're doing something like mountain climbers from minute on, 20 seconds off, do you really think you're going to sustain that for 30, 40, 50 minutes? No, you're not going to. Not even me. Some of the highest level guys that I train with, they won't even do that because it's difficult. And that's how you train it. So that's something we would do with our clients. That's something I do with the clients is we'll pick a simple exercise. Sprinting, mountain climbers, bike, whatever's available. Something simple like squat jumps. Renegade rows is one of them. Burpees. The list goes on in what you can use. The modalities are there. But it's not simple exercises like arm curls or sit-ups. Those aren't high-intensity interval moves. So you pick that move. Just that one move. Every day you do your workout, you pick a different one. And you put on your timer. So when I start, for example, a fight training camp to get ready for a fight, I always start at 20-20. 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. As the week goes on, as the weeks go on, I increase the work time and I keep the rest time relatively the same. For a fight camp, I never get the rest time anything more than 30 seconds. So I will increase I would go from 20 seconds the following week, 25 seconds of work to 20, 30 seconds of work to 20 rest, 35 to 20 rest, 40. And basically I work my way up to a minute of work, 20 seconds of rest. By the time you get to that level, your cardiovascular system is ready to go. If you can do high intensity interval training at a 1 minute interval to 20-second rest at a very high pace, bringing your heart rate up to about 80-90% of its max, you're in phenomenal shape and you will do fantastic cardiovascular wise in whatever sport or activity that you do. So that's how I like to structure it. That's how my strength coaches structure it. We don't this whole class structure of high intensity interval training doesn't work. It doesn't work. What you're doing is circuits. Let's just be honest, and it's grinding my gears because people pay good freaking money, hard-earned money, for that, and that's exactly not. They're just being a victim of marketing techniques used by the fitness industry, and I find that it's a little bit sad because it's a way that the fitness industry has been using for years and years to manipulate people into thinking that they're doing something special when they're really not. And it's no different than how they've done things before. with other things, fat loss, other things over time. I'm not going to get into all of it, but fitness has done that repeatedly, and it's not going to stop. But it really grinds my gears to see, especially now the pandemic's, well, it's winding. I don't know what it's doing, but especially now that it's winding down, I'm sure over the last year you've seen tons of content produced by trainers and fitness professionals who are desperate for money right now, promoting HIIT training at home, with these crazy stupid exercises, and it couldn't be more wrong. And it sucks that people are seeing that and thinking that that's what it is, but that's not what it is. And so don't fool yourself into thinking. Now, another way of including high intensity interval training into your personal workout regimen, and this is one that I kind of like too, is not including it in your workout at the end, but dedicating a whole workout to it. So when I dedicate a whole workout to high intensity interval training, normally that exercise session lasts half an hour at the max. So you are not doing any of this stuff past half an hour. So how I would structure that kind of a training session is you would, do your warm up, so jogging, stretching, 10 minutes. Get warm, sweating, dripping. Now you have 20 minutes, and then that 20 minutes is when you're going to do your high intensity interval work and your cool down. So let's take something very simple like sprints. This is something I do quite often. I got a treadmill, and we do the sprints on the treadmill. So I'll warm up for 10 minutes, use the massage gun, get myself nice and dripping wet. Body's nice and warm, and then boom, we do 15 minutes of intervals. So when I run, because my knees are shit, I'll probably do 40 seconds on, 20 off, is as much as I go with the sprints. And I just increase the intensity, so bring the speed up on the treadmill when I do it. And I do that for 15 minutes. So I do 15 sets. I'm absolutely wiped by the 15th, if you're doing it fast enough. And then I cool down. And then I'm done. Half an hour. High intensity interval training. And what you will notice, if you do your high intensity interval training in that manner, you'll actually have a great metabolic effect throughout the day, meaning you're going to actually feel super hungry. Your body's going to be burning calories if you do that early in the morning. If you do it late at night, it's still beneficial going into that sleep cycle. But normally when I do those high intensity interval training sessions just on its own, that half an hour, that 15 hard minutes of work, it's normally early on during the day, so before that lunch, before 12 noon. And what I do notice, and I've noticed some of our clients and athletes telling me the same thing, is that their metabolism is on fire that day. So one of the great benefits of high intensity interval training is it maxes out those systems so good. And if you time it really well, with your energy, if you wake up early and you have great energy that day and you time it really well, you can get so much fat burn, so much calorie burn throughout the day just from that 15 minutes of high intensity work. So that is something to keep in mind during your week, throwing in one high intensity interval session earlier on in the day before you go to work, before you head out. And tell me how you feel, because I'm collecting data on that, and it seems to be a really good way to boost your metabolism and boost just your fat burning throughout the day by adding that session and once a week. So normally I like to do that once or twice a week. And what I also find is it saves your joints from overuse injuries. So if you're doing high intensity interval training as opposed to long distance running, so I know a lot of people in the fitness industry. A lot of people like doing long cardio, like going for jogs, bike rides, etc. No problem with that. There's nothing wrong with those modalities of training. The only problem with it is overuse. So over time, so say you're going for A lot of people are taking up jogging over this jogging over this time, and what's ending up happening is they're jogging like for an hour, 2 hours every day, clearing 10K, 12K, 15K per their workout. Over the course of 8 to 10 weeks, that adds up on your joints, on your knees. So what I've been noticing is a lot of people have been taking up running, biking, all those sorts of things, and are coming to me saying they have lower back issues, knee pain. So that's one of the downfalls of those long bouts of exercises. And what I find is high intensity. When I used to do that too, and my knees would be sore. I'm two knee surgeries in, so my knees would be super sore, and they hurt, and it would be like that for 10 days, 12 days, and finally it gets some little bit of relief, and then it would keep coming back. So now I've switched completely to getting my cardiovascular through high intensity interval training. I don't get that joint pain anymore. I don't get the lower back pain. I don't get the knee pain. It doesn't add up the same way as it adds up for that long, intense, long cardio session. So that's another benefit of HIIT training that's not talked about, is how much better it can be for your joints, for your body, in terms of preserving your ability to continuously exercise over time. Because I'll tell you this right now, if you're doing 5, 10, 15K a run 3-4 times a week throughout the year, it's not sustainable. Your body will at some point push back. So there's nothing wrong with doing 40-minute runs, 50-minute, 60-minute runs during the week. Just add a smaller high-intensity interval session, and you get the same amount of cardiovascular work, if not more. But you don't take the wear and tear on your joints. So for someone who enjoys running and jogging, which is a lot of people now that the closures here, especially in Canada, and I can imagine around the world, a lot of people have taken up simple activities like running because they don't require equipment, and governments were letting people go outside to run. Yeah, think about that. Governments are letting you go outside to run. Anyway, so taking up running, I want you guys to start thinking about adding a high intensity interval running session in to the week, and see, and I guarantee you'll see a big difference in your performance over time. So I guarantee over time you will see a gradual increase in your ability to do those long distance runs. One, because you're not taking the wear and tear. Two, because your cardiovascular system, your anaerobic system especially, will develop a whole lot faster than doing a completely aerobic run. So instead of running 15K every time, say you run 15 or 10 or 15K every time you go for a run, try and say you do 15K at the start of the week, high intensity interval training in the middle of the week, and then you finish off your week with a long run. You will see tremendous more progress over the course of the year than if you were to just do long aerobic runs every other day or every day. You will avoid those injuries, and that's one of the benefits of high intensity interval training, is it doesn't take long because you're maxing yourself out. So I know I've gone on quite a bit about this subject, but it is something that did grind my gears. Did bug me because I see so many people misusing this term because it's popular, it's trendy, it sounds cool. I do HIIT training. No, you don't. That's just the facts. You're not doing it properly. You're not doing HIIT training. You're circuit training. So I wanted to kind of address that in this very inaugural episode because it's one of the things that I do on a daily basis with clients and with athletes, and I want to spread that message so people can start doing it properly, saving your body, saving yourself some money from wearing yourself out. And those chains will continue to promote it the way they promote it, and I just want you to be knowledgeable that that's what you're receiving, and that's it. I'm not trying to discredit any of them. I think that given the times right now and the state of the fitness industry, anything we can do to keep anybody up in business is positive. But I do want to educate people on what some of these places are promoting and what they're giving you and what's the reality of the situation, so that you do not, if you are looking for high intensity interval training, you don't waste your time and you don't waste your money, and you do it properly. So that's what that is. And so that's it for this episode of Grind My Gears. We talked about some UFC. We talked about some high intensity interval training. So what I want to sign off with and finish this episode out with is that this past weekend in Toronto, we had a gigantic turnout for the no lockdown protest. 20,000 plus, I believe. 20,000 plus. That is a staggering number of people in Toronto gathering on the streets and exercising their freedoms. And I just want to say a shout out to everybody who was there. I support that movement wholeheartedly. But I also want you to notice that it was not covered in the media. If you went into any of the mass media outlets that are in Canada and in Toronto, that event was not covered, and there's a reason for it. I'm not going to get into it today, but I just want to bring awareness to it, that those things are happening. There are people out there who do feel the same way you do, regardless of your stance on anything. You just got to find them, and you have to be aware that, if it doesn't go along with the agenda of certain outlets, you're not going to see that kind of stuff. So I just want to bring that attention to that. And that's it. So that's the very first episode of Grind My Gears. We have plenty more to come. I'm going to be pumping out these things like candy. I'm excited. It's going to be a good time. So thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time. That is Grind My Gears. Peace out. Have a good one.